Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Turning the Verge. I'm Crystal Nettles and my guest today is artist Jason+ramos. Welcome, Jason.
Thanks.
So what made you get into art?
Well, probably it was the fact that both my father and my grandmother were both painters. And so I kind of grew up seeing a lot of that, living around all of that, being taught to kind of have an appreciation of all that. So it kind of, it was never really offered me as a choice. It was just kind of what I knew I would be doing sort of as far as I can remember, so yeah.
Were you always painting and drawing as a kid as well?
I was always drawing, yeah, definitely. Always drawing stuff out of like comic books and things like that. So I kind of decided on a very early age that I wanted to do something like that, relating to that, so yeah.
Do you remember the first thing you ever drew?
I don't remember the first thing I ever drew, but there were some pivotal drawings in my childhood that I remember doing where I remember consciously thinking, okay, this drawing isn't good enough, or things like that. And so yeah, there are definitely some moments, but the very first drawing, it's a little too far back and to remember. So
you're very critical of yourself from an early age.
Oh yeah, definitely. You have to be. I mean, you know, from early on, I was trying to get better and focus in on different things. And you know, my father, of course, who knew how to draw and paint, would always sort of give me pointers and try to get me to be better, and you know, try to find other kids in school that drew and sort of compete with them. So yeah, totally.
So were you always kind of focused on art in school, or were you good at any other subjects, or did you not like math and science?
I kind of, I didn't really care for any of the other subjects too much, but I knew enough to know that I should probably do well in them. But I was pretty much focused on sort of the art and the creative stuff, but yeah, I wasn't the best student in the world until I got to college or so, but yeah, I was focused a lot on the drawing and the art, maybe too much.
So where did you go to college?
I originally went to college at in a community college in San Antonio called San Antonio College, and then
Very fitting.
Yeah, I know, it was called SAC. And then I transferred to the University of Houston after a couple other twists and turns, where I got my bachelor's degree. And then I came to graduate school at Cal State Fullerton right up the road. So.
Well, my alma mater. Can't say I went to graduate school, but got my bachelor's there. So you've got a Master of Fine Arts.
That's right, yeah.
So when one has a Master of Fine Arts, what do they do with that degree?
Well, it qualifies you to teach, at least at the base level, right? I mean, it doesn't guarantee you a job or anything, but it certainly helps if you're sort of going that route, definitely. And also, it's just kind of, you know, some institutional credibility. It's certainly not the only path for an artist to take, having an MFA. There's certainly lots of great artists that never, ever went to school at all. But for someone like me, it was definitely the right path for me to take, because it definitely opened lots of doors and lots of ideas for me.
So what classes do you teach?
I currently teach at Santa Ana College, right up the road. I currently teach Introduction to Digital Art, which is sort of, I introduce kids to, or students, to Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop, Adobe InDesign, and digital imaging in general. And Introduction to Art Concepts, which is kind of a basic Art 101 class where there's a little bit of art history, a little bit of art theory, kind of just introducing kids to, or students, to just kind of the world of art, right, to see if they kind of want to pursue it.
So are most of your students, are they younger, you know, college-age kids, as you say, or are they older?
Most of them are younger college age. There's a few adult, older than me students, but for the most part, it's 18, 19, 20-year-olds, yeah.
So are they wanting to get into that as a career, or is it just kind of a fun thing and you're hoping that they enjoy it and you're teaching them to enjoy it? Most
of my students, for the Introduction to Art Concept students, it's mostly non-art majors, because it feels like another requirement, right? And so my hope is that some of them, or at least a couple of them, or even if just one of them, kind of get turned on and to art and kind of move on to some of the other classes. For the Intro to Digital Art classes, are usually kids that are already sort of involved in at least, you know, digital art or, you know, graphic art at very least. So it's kind of a mix, and there's definitely a few people that are there that are kind of just trying to build up their skill set, or they're just, you know, fulfilling a requirement. So it's kind of a mix, but for the most part, mostly artish majors in the digital art class, and then mostly non-art majors in the art concepts class.
So are you a digital artist as well?
Sure, I use lots of digital tools in the production of my own artwork, definitely, on a on a really big foundational level, sort of kind of figuring things out. And I have ever since community college when I discovered that stuff. So because of that, I ended up teaching it because I just ended up sort of becoming really proficient in all that stuff just in the course of making my own art.
So I believe we have a few pictures of some of your pieces. I've noticed they're quite contemporary. What made you kind of go this route, or what are we seeing here?
These are all recent paintings, and also there's some pics of like a drawing installation that I did. These are all really, really recent from this year, with the exception of a couple of them. And they're all sort of a continuation of stuff, of content and subject matter that I was sort of working with when I was in grad school, and it's just sort of evolved in the couple years since then. And they're all, as I recall, pretty kind of large-scale acrylic and oil paintings, and then there's a few works on paper. And sort of a drawing installation, which is like sort of putting up a whole bunch of drawings in one area, because I'm always sort of drawing to kind of create imagery for the paintings and other stuff. So I sort of kind of brought the drawings together for one of the pieces and one of the images there. So yeah.
And how long does it take for you to finish a piece?
It's kind of hard to say because you know, when I come up with an idea and I start working on it, you know, I don't really have any deadlines or anything, right? So the actual physical making of the actual painting usually doesn't take very long. It's kind of figuring out all the preliminary stuff usually takes longer, or sort of actually doing some of the technical prepping of the actual canvas and stuff. That tends to take longer sometimes than the actual painting. But all the spaces in between when I'm thinking about it, I think is part of it also, and that usually takes the longest time, more so than the actual physical painting.
So when you're thinking about it, is it just kind of an idea pops into your head, or it's like, I need to paint a new piece, what's it going to be?
Usually, kind of, a lot of times there'll be sort of kind of immutable outside factors that determine it. For example, right now I found a bunch of stretcher frames in a dumpster, and so I have a moral obligation to make paintings out of them. So now I know what size those are going to be, and I kind of want to keep them all in the same body of work. So it's sort of this kind of balance between keeping it consistent with my interest for an overall body, and it's also trying to do something a little bit different, trying to see how far I can stretch that until it turns into a completely different body of work. So, yeah.
So you take things out of dumpsters. Do you recycle a lot of stuff?
I recycle old paintings sometimes and turn them into new paintings. I've done that, which is, to me, that's kind of, you know, I kind of, you know, I don't really have a choice sometimes. And to me, if I don't do that, I won't end up painting at all, because the actual cost of producing big, huge paintings gets some kind of prohibitive sometimes. So I'm totally an advocate for recycling the old stuff. So
I totally understand that, because I've thought about, oh, for fun, maybe I'll just paint something. It'll totally look horrible, but I went to the art store and, you know, I'd want to paint something big. And it, you know, they're like $80 for these giant canvases. Like, what if I mess up, you know? And that's, yeah, it's kind of nice to, and art can be made out of anything, which is,
that's right.
Which is kind of nice. So where do you draw your inspiration from?
A lot of it, a great deal of it comes from things that I was looking at when I was a lot younger that I'm still sort of fascinated with now, and I kind of am trying to understand why I'm so fascinated by these ostensibly juvenile things. And so for me, making art out of those things is me trying to figure out why I'm still fascinated with those things, because otherwise, you know, it's sort of, it sounds kind of deep, but trying to figure out exactly why my life is so concerned with those things, because they're pretty adolescent, and I sort of feel like a strange connection with them being an adult now. So I try to turn it into something sort of more, try to turn it into something that's deeper. Right?
Well, you are surrounded by young people every day in class.
Sure,
that probably doesn't help. But I did notice that you were talking earlier about just drawing kind of comic type of things. I've noticed that, that kind of overtone in some of your work. It's got that comic feel.
Definitely.
Any reason why, or not any reason, I guess you could have any reason you want, but there's some uses of color that are generally the same type of colors used over and over again. Is there any kind of rhyme or reason to that?
Sure. I tend to have a detraction to kind of primary-ish colors, because I kind of are bright, high-key colors, because they, I associate them with sort of the bright primary colors of sort of those comic books that I'm sort of referencing. The comic books, cartoon shows, action figures, all sorts of things tend to be tend to have very sort of bright primary colors and live in a bright primary world. And there's precedent for that in paintings also. So I try to kind of find the weird intersections of all those things, and I try to kind of zero in on that with some of the paintings.
Do you have any favorite artists that you...
Sure. There's a whole lot of favorite artists that I have, and there's a few that I kind of keep coming back to. One is Robert Rauschenberg, who's like a super famous, influential artist who's also happened to be from Texas, which I sort of took a lot of inspiration from. When I was younger, I saw a huge retrospective of his and kind of flipped my lid in terms of like what art could be. And other people, there's a painter named Philip Guston who sort of reintroduced kind of cartoonish imagery into painting in a very painterly way in the 70s. And he was a teacher also, so I kind of look at his stuff a lot. And then there's a whole host of really painterly painters, i.e. painters that kind of really engage painting in this way that I think you can only fully appreciate it if you've done it or have a lot of exposure to it. People like Jenny Saville and Amy Silman, Inka Essenhigh, all kinds of those people. And then there's this whole group of people making books and comics that are really sort of pushing the boundaries of what comics means and kind of overlapping in this weird kind of avant-garde sort of world. And there's a whole bunch of those and a whole different publishers, and I look at a lot of that stuff too. So,
have you ever wanted to go into that book or comic route?
Yes. And there's a definite strain of people doing sort of stuff that I'm kind of interested in, that I'm kind of like looking at, and stuff that I kind of put together on my own, and I'm kind of figuring out where to fit it in or where to kind of make it happen. So yes, definitely.
So how does somebody, say there's some young kid that, you know, wants to draw for a comic book, how do you do that? Do you make your own and show it to people? Do you go to the large companies and say, here's some of my work? What?
Well, I've never like professionally worked making my own comics. When I was a kid, I used to try and get jobs doing that when I was younger, at the very least just so I could get the rejection letter back because I knew how that worked. It's kind of a hard thing to break into, the sort of more mainstream superhero stuff. It's like very labor intensive, and you have to have a very specific sort of interest in doing that, which I thought I had once when I was a kid, and I realized I sort of didn't, and kind of got into the painting stuff. But my best advice for cracking into anything that you love to do is to do it on your own as best you can, and really, really dedicate yourself to it, whether you'll be successful at it or not. And if you're really dedicated to it without any practical reciprocation at all, then it should be its own reward. And then ideally, if you are successful in a practical sense, it'll be because you were already sort of successful in, you know, that other sense. So the personal sense. So yeah, just do it on your own as best you can, and then you know, I'd like to say the rest would take care of itself, but you do have to kind of put it out there and put some effort towards that. And there's a million different ways to do that. So
it's kind of said that being an artist is kind of a hard life, so to speak. Has that been the case for you, or have you always been lucky enough and fortunate enough to be successful?
Well, it's the only life I've led, so I don't know how hard it is. I think, you know, everyone's life is hard or easy in different times. Sure, I mean, compared to other people I know that have, you know, regular jobs in healthcare and all that good stuff, sure, it can be, you know, I can describe it as kind of hard, but I feel very lucky and fortunate that I've been able to, pursue my art education, have time to actually make my art, be around other artists who are supportive of not just making art, but the lifestyle of being an artist. And so hard or easy, I don't know. I don't really have a choice. This is the life that I'm going to be living no matter what. So
you've never been a starving artist, though?
Oh,
is that something to eat?
No, I mean, there's definitely been, you know, some lean times that I can attribute to my lifestyle, but it never seriously made me reconsider anything.
So it's always something you've always wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, it sounds kind of cliche or, you know, bohemian or whatever, but I'd rather be poor at this than successful at anything else.
Cool. Well, that's very admirable. Now, earlier we saw a few examples of your work. If people wanted to see more, where would they go? They
would go to www.jasonramos.com, and it's all there. All the paintings, all the drawings, video work that I've done, a link to the blog that I write on, and contact information. It's all there.
So your blog, what do you write about?
Mostly art-related topics, sometimes teaching-related stuff. Sometimes if I go see some shows, I'll write about it. Sometimes if I see a good movie or hear some good music, I'll write about it. Lately, I've just been writing about some kind of general sort of art topics that kind of come up in some of my classes. I don't write on it as much as I feel I ought to. Again, sort of like painting, I feel it's like a moral obligation, and I kind of have to get to it. But yeah, it's mostly art-related topics. Or sometimes it's off-topic, but it's mostly art-related.
And are you part of any exhibits coming up, or see your work in person?
I don't have any exhibits coming up right now. Right now, this year, I haven't really been showing too much. Just been concentrating on the work and doing self-promotion. But they can...
The website, people.
Right. But they can come by my studio anytime and come look at it. I up at the Brewery Art Colony is where I live, and where our doors are always open and for people coming by and hanging out. So just get a hold of me and let me know, and I'll show you whatever you want.
Los Angeles?
That is. It's in just north of downtown Los Angeles, the Brewery Art Colony.
And that info is all on your website as well?
Yeah. Or you can, at the very least, you can email me or something, and I'll tell you everything you need to know. Mm.
So JASONRAMOS.
That's right. That's right.
Very, very cool. Now, is there anything else you want to tell the lovely fans out there before we... what else is in the mind of Jason?
Geez, I don't know. That's a big question.
Has anyone ever told you that you sound like Hank Azaria? Because that's what I'm feeling right now.
Actually, yes.
Oh, really?
I've actually had people tell me that before.
Not only could you write comics, you could be the voice of them, since he's a...
Yeah.
Do you do any voices?
Just for my friends to entertain them. And
well, we're your friends here, right? All the viewers.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I try to keep all my performances in the studio, and then have the documentations, the paintings of them, kind of represent me. So
I see. Very
nice try, though.
Let's see. Let's delve a little deeper into the mind of Jason, out of the art world.
Okay.
Favorite food?
Gosh, I don't know. Right now, I'm really into these vegan chocolate chip cookies that Trader Joe's makes.
Are you vegan?
No.
Oh.
I just like the cookies.
Oh, well, that's good, because I'm vegan. So you got to convert you now. But at least you like vegan food.
Sure.
And
yeah,
vegan
it's tasty.
At that, too. Yeah. Usually, cookies that are vegan, not so good.
Well, everything at Trader Joe's is delicious, so it works out for me pretty well.
Favorite movie?
Of all time, that would probably be Pulp Fiction or Jaws, but the last really good one I saw was called Crash by David Cronenberg, and that was a few years old.
Yeah, that one Best Picture, correct?
No, that was a Crash by somebody else.
Crash.
Yeah, it was a different Crash.
So you can have two movies that are named the same thing, and that's...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
Huh.
They're very different movies, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
But what is that about?
This one is directed by David Cronenberg, and it's about people who get sexually aroused by car crashes and everything that car crashes are involved with.
Okay, well, let's bring it back to art.
Yeah.
Do you ever paint or draw over you see a movie or a song or anything that you like, and does that make you want to paint about it?
Yes. I still am kind of obsessed with the movie Night of the Living Dead, and which is another one of my favorite movies. And I've done paintings of the stills from that movie and kind of put my own sort of spin on it and kind of presented that and had some conceptual sort of spins on all that also. And I've done video work relating to that movie and sort of using clips of that movie as either the basis for an animation or kind of a more conceptual thing where I sort of re-edit the movie. So yeah, totally, without a doubt.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, my lovely thanks to Jason here for coming to visit, and make sure you guys check out his website, JasonRamos.com, to see all of his work. It's amazing, and thank you so much
for
coming to visit.
All right.
On being a guest on Turning the Verge, make sure you visit the website photo1.com.